welcome to Vlogmas Day 21. Today we're going to do the Q&A video. I have a whole host of questions that have been sent in via Instagram and a few via YouTube as well. We normally do this in an evening with glasses of wine and the kids in bed, but it turns out that we have no free evenings in December this year. So we're doing it during the day. Tom's finished work for Christmas and I have just about managed to get all of the Minis Club packed, and the kids are still at school because they don't break up until the 22nd in Scotland. So we're going to do it during the day with a cup of tea instead. So I have a whole 2 pages full of questions in no particular order, and we're just going to go through them in the order they're written down, really. So there's no order to this, and there's lots of very, very random questions.
Yep, just disorder overall.
Disorder and chaos.
Yep.
Okay, so question number 1. You just won an all-paid week's vacation. Where are you headed?
Ooh. Hot or cold?
That's the challenge, isn't it? That is the challenge. I think I would always go cold. So for me, it would be a ski holiday. Maybe if it was all expenses paid and I could go absolutely anywhere I want, I'd have like a really fancy private catered chalet in the French Alps somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good. I don't know if I'd go for that or if I'd go somewhere tropical, like beachy, because I like the beach and I like water. So a nice resort or a nice secluded beach somewhere with a private beach house, somewhere warm.
And part of the all expenses paid bit would be that childcare would be handled.
Yeah.
So that we could go on our own for a week.
Yeah, we're allowed to say that, aren't we?
Are we allowed to say that? It's been a long few years with lots of time where the kids haven't been at school, so we need a child-free holiday. The next question kind of leads on to that. Favourite place for a holiday? So I would always say mountains. Snow and mountains definitely would be my favourite place for a holiday.
Yeah, I take this question to be more like a realistic, where do we like to go on holiday, rather than a wish list kind of infinite resources kind of question. So ski holiday is
or Cornwall.
Answer. Cornwall, yeah.
But that's less of a holiday and more a visiting family, I guess.
Yeah, it kind of feels like home.
Yeah.
Kind of, rather than a holiday.
Yeah.
Ski holiday.
Ski holiday. Mountains. I think we'd vote on that.
Yeah.
French Alps.
French Alps, typically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, this question. I haven't even thought this through. I gave you the questions and let you have a little chance to look at them, but I've not looked at them myself. If you could swap each other for a snack, what snack would you choose?
Okay, yeah, so I just read this just before we started, and I instantly narrowed it down to 2 possibilities, but I can't pick between them.
Are you going to tell me what they are?
Yeah, so either a Star Bar, or a double-decker.
You went sweet. That surprises me.
Yeah, I know. I mean, or just some peanuts.
You usually go for the savouries over the sweet.
I know, it's just the word snack confused me and it just made me think of chocolate bars.
Okay. I feel like I would be comparable to a Star Bar or a double-decker.
Or a Melton Melbury mini pork pie, or big pork pie.
That's slightly less complimentary.
I know, it's to do with how much I like the snack, not to do with how like the snack you are. That's a whole different thing.
That's true.
Because I would pick a very different snack if I was picking a snack to represent you. I don't know what it would be, but it wouldn't be a pork pie.
I don't know what I would swap you for, but it would probably be sweet. It would probably be some kind of sweets. Or like a collection of all of the orange jelly sweets. Like orange jelly beans and orange Haribo and orange jelly sweets, because orange jelly sweets are my favourite. Did you know, if I told you the story about my brother?
Yes.
So I have to tell everyone now. When I was young, and when we still had Woolworths, and you used to be able to get pick a mix from Woolworths, one year for Christmas, my brother went into Woolworths and he got me a bag of pick a mix, but he'd gone through all the pick a mix and picked out all the orange sweets from the pick a mix and gave me a bag of orange pick a mix for Christmas. That was one of the best Christmas presents I've ever had. This is more a question for me. How do you decide which colours to put together when I'm dyeing yarn? It varies, really. A lot of my things are dyed with an inspiration in mind. So for a lot of kind of the book inspired stuff, I would probably be using inspiration like either from book covers or characters that can have like specific colours for inspiration. Like my Winnie the Pooh collection, that's quite an easy one to think of because you think of like the colours of the characters basically. Slightly different with other things like the Little Women collection that I did. I used the film, the modern day, the new film that's come out. The costume designer, when they were putting together the costumes for all the characters during that film, they used specific colour palettes for each of the characters. So I used those colour palettes as inspiration for all the different colourways. Yeah, and sometimes it's a little bit more, I just want to have fun and create things, and I tend to just pick colours I fancy, but obviously try and make sure that I don't pick ones that are going to turn into mud. I don't know if that's a very satisfactory answer, but
Yeah.
does that make sense to you?
Take inspiration from stuff.
Yeah, and then I use that inspiration to help me pick my colours, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, you can do the next question.
What made you move to Scotland? So that would be me, basically. I didn't like my old job, so I got a new job, and the new job I got was in Dundee.
To be fair, you didn't like your old job, so you applied for all available jobs.
That's true.
And the one you got was in Dundee.
Yes, yeah. So I'd applied many places. I'd applied for jobs in Manchester. There were other jobs in London.
Didn't you apply for one in Hong Kong?
I did apply for one in Hong Kong. Yep, I applied for one in Australia, a couple in Australia, and got the one in Dundee.
Yeah, I'm quite grateful that we stayed in the UK.
Yeah, and Dundee is good for the job-wise, and having moved here, it's also a good place to live. But
yeah, we're happy. We're settled here, aren't we? It's nice.
Yeah, it's not like we had visited Dundee or knew Dundee and then wanted to move here. It was just because I got a job at Dundee University. I'd
been to Scotland once as a child. I barely remember it, so I was obviously quite a young child. And yeah, the first time I came up was when we came looking for houses. So that was quite fun.
Yeah, I'd been up twice before, because I came up once to give a lecture, and then I came up for the job interview. Yeah, and then came up to look at houses.
Yeah, yeah.
And then came up again to.
But
stay.
we kind of had a feel, I think, that it was going to be a place we would be quite happy, because we both grew up in Cornwall. So being close to the beach here feels more like home than where we were living in London. And being able to have access to kind of the countryside and stuff like that feels a lot more like home than London did.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, favourite book you've read this year?
Have you got one?
Gosh,
You've read a lot this year.
I've read 16 or 17 books this year. I don't know that I could narrow down a favourite from them. That's quite tricky. I did a book video earlier in the month, which I'm sure most of you will already have watched, where I talked about all the books that I've read this year, but I can't decide if I can narrow down a favourite among them. Have you got a favourite?
I don't know how many books I've read this year, because I haven't been keeping count. And I don't read as many books as I would like, because I tend to read just before I go to bed, and then I'm too tired to read more than a few pages normally. So it can take me a while to get through books. I know it's got to be Broken Earth trilogy. That was this year, wasn't it? I read that.
I think it was this year and last year. I read the second one this year, but I read the first one last year. But that's fine.
I got the second one for Christmas, didn't I?
Possibly, yeah.
And the third one.
Yes, I think you did. Yeah, I think you got. Yeah.
So probably that in terms of books I've finished would be the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, which I would highly recommend.
I've talked about the trilogy too, although I've not read the third book yet. I've really enjoyed the first couple.
Unprecedented in that every single step in the trilogy, every book in the trilogy, won the was it the Nebula Award? The Hugo Award.
The Hugo Award, wasn't it?
Which is the big science fiction fantasy award, and every book in the trilogy won the award, which is unprecedented. But also currently reading Dune, and that is amazing. But I've not finished that yet, so I can't say that's the favourite book I've read because I've not finished it. We're looking for other questions.
No, I was hoping that this was the notebook that I'd used when I wrote down all the books that I read for 2021. Yep. Lost track of the years for the video I did, but it isn't. So I don't have a list of all the books that I've read in front of me. So I can't pick. I can't pick a favourite. I'm sorry. I'm going to fail at this question. I can't pick a favourite.
Did you read Uprooted?
I did read Uprooted this year, and that was really, really good.
I read that
and
too.
You did, yeah. You recommended it to me actually.
Another vote is to suggest that you say Uprooted.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Uprooted. But no, I've read a lot of books this year, and I've enjoyed a lot of them. So I can't pick a favourite. Sorry.
Yeah. Watch the other video about all the books she's read.
Yeah.
Instead.
And then you can decide which one I talked most.
Yeah.
Passionately about. Okay, I'm going to move on for that failure of answering questions. Favourite Christmas memory? Goodness.
The orange sweets?
The orange sweets. There you go, I've already told you a Christmas memory. That is actually quite a fond memory because I could just, the thought that my brother put into that present for me was just so sweet. I really enjoyed, there's a couple actually, relatively recent Christmas memories in terms of how old I am. But our first Christmas with Arthur, we travelled all the way down from London to Cornwall. He was only 4 weeks old. I can remember having to stop every 2 hours on the way to feed him in the car. And it was a tiring Christmas. It wasn't the easiest Christmas because we had a 4-week-old baby who had travelled across the country. But I look back on photos of that Christmas of this tiny little thing dressed up in all his Christmas stuff, and we've got photos of him in his Moses basket in front of the Christmas tree, and it brings back lots of happy memories. I think that Christmas, lots of positive memories of that Christmas, definitely.
I don't know if I've got a specific memory, but I have lots of fond memories of family getting together and fireplaces and Christmas lights, coloured Christmas lights around the fire, and Christmas trees and all those kinds of nice evocative memories of my childhood Christmases, I think.
Yeah.
And the smell of a real Christmas tree.
That's one of your big...
with the fireplace, like in the morning when you got the cold spent fire and the smell of the Christmas tree.
That's one of your big things, isn't it? Because we've always had an artificial Christmas tree, and I think you really do miss that pine.
Yeah,
that pine scent.
Trying to find scented candles to replace it, but not
quite,
they're never quite the same.
One day, if we host a Christmas, then we'll get a real Christmas tree. But it always feels such a waste when we travel to visit family. You're kind of missing out on the best part of it.
But then also they're a nightmare to look after.
Yeah, you don't want to have to clean up the needles.
And for 20 quid, we've got this one that's lasted us 10 years.
More than 10 years. We got it when we were first married.
Well, we could spend 80 quid on a real one that's going to last us a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's true. But you'd get your stuff. Anyway.
We just spend 80 quid on a decent candle.
Here's a fun one. Who is the biggest nerd out of the both of you.
Okay, we're gonna have to have a fight.
Have a
about this.
fight off, a nerd off. I don't know. It depends.
Define
It depends
nerd.
on exactly. Your definition of the term nerd, I think, is a difficulty here. We both love a bit of sci-fi, but I think you're probably bigger on the sci-fi. Like, you grew up watching Star Trek, and you're probably bigger on the sci-fi side of things.
Yeah, and especially like the kind of the real intricate, high-end sci-fi stuff where they just start speaking in maths. Yeah.
Whereas my preferences lean towards the more kind of supernatural horror fantasy side of things, if that makes sense. We're both massive nerds when it comes to D&D now, though.
Yep.
So I think that puts us on an even keel there.
Yep. But then I also studied a PhD and do research on law, so maybe I'm the biggest nerd.
Yeah, I was about to say,
law.
I think I've reduced my nerd stats by the fact that I have a creative artistic job, whereas you are an academic, so that knocks you up.
Yeah, my job is by definition being a nerd. Like, maybe not like the traditional trappings of nerdhood with like Dungeons and Dragons and sci-fi and stuff, because it's law. Although I do actually do that. We'll get on. There's a question about that.
Yeah,
later.
Should we move on?
So
I think we're on it. I think you are the biggest nerd, because me having an artistic job reduces my nerd stats slightly.
Okay. I've got like a +5 to nerd.
There you go. You've just
a +3.
Yeah, and that statement has just cemented you as the biggest nerd. Who makes the best cuppa?
Well, that would be by definition whoever is making a cup of tea for themselves.
He makes the best cuppa because he makes me a cuppa every morning in bed.
Do you know how to make a cup of tea?
There's video evidence on Vlogmas that I do know how to make a cup of tea.
Okay.
I just don't know how to make a cup of tea pre 8 a.m.
Right. Fair enough. There's a special skill to doing it at certain times of day.
Definitely. Yeah. As is evidenced by the tea stains on the floor of our bedroom from the cups of tea that I made pre 8 a.m. and succeeded in spilling as I carried them to the bedroom. I like this question. What is your favourite painting, statue, sculpture, public art display, or something like that?
You go well, I think.
So my granddad was an architect, and he was a fantastic artist. I've got some of his sketches around the house, actually, which I think I've shared in previous Vlogmases. And he had an absolute love of Salvador Dali, and that love got passed on to me. So I love Salvador Dali's paintings, and I think, that if ever I think of artists that I like, then my first thought would be Salvador Dali, and that's just come from my granddad and his love of it. And if you want to translate that into sculptures, I've always quite enjoyed along the South Bank in London, just by kind of where the London Eye is, along that stretch by Westminster Bridge. Is that the one by the London Eye, Westminster Bridge? Yes, it is, because it goes over to Westminster and Big Ben. Yeah, just along the kind of London Eye side of the South Bank, you've got all the Salvador Dali sculptures along there, and I really like those.
I can't think of anything specific. I don't know.
I'm sorry, I'm frowning at the fact that there's people outside our window and I'm feeling observed. You can't think of anything specific? Not even artists. What about Mondrian?
Okay.
No, not Mondrian. The other one. The one that we've got, like, that you told me off for because I was going to put it behind the door. The painting.
Oh,
Rothko.
Yeah, I do like a Rothko. That's true. You can't put it behind the door, even if the door does have glass in. I really enjoyed the Van Gogh Museum. We went to that.
We did actually. That was amazing. That was gosh, that was 8 years ago. I was pregnant with Arthur when we went. We went to Amsterdam and we went to the Van Gogh Museum.
Yeah. The Damien Hirst stuff, that was amazing.
That was amazing. Yeah, we saw, I've forgotten the name of the exhibition that he did, but Damien Hirst had one at the Tate Modern in London. Yeah. And that was incredible, actually.
Yeah, with all the butterflies.
Yeah.
Life and death. And
it was the life of no, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do read about a lot of art, but I never remember it. So, let's go with that.
It's not bad for off the top of our heads, having not really researched our answers to the questions.
Yeah.
Right, okay, next question. What other names did we have for the boys?
Redwood, Tiberius, Giddens.
So, yeah, this is quite a funny story, actually. When I was pregnant with Arthur, we were still trying to decide names and stuff like that, and...
You were still trying to decide names.
Yeah, okay.
I'd already decided on Redwood, Tiberius.
Tom joked that we should call the baby, unnamed at that point, Redwood Tiberius, which was never going to happen. Although we do think he would make. He sounds like he would be an absolutely amazing American businessman.
He'd been like a 19th century entrepreneur.
Yes, Redwood Tiberius Giddens.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, but because of that, we started referring to him as Artie, like R-T, which was quite amusing because obviously at the point we picked the name Arthur, we'd been intending to shorten it to Artie. So we were actually calling the baby by the name it was going to have before anybody knew what the name it was.
Yeah.
That sentence completely got away from me, but
no, it makes sense.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that was that, but that was more of a joke one. But Arthur was a family name.
Yeah.
Both our grandparents were called Arthur, so that was a decision with a family name. If he'd been a girl, we liked Daisy.
We did like Daisy.
And then with Jasper, we just liked the name Jasper.
Yeah.
It wasn't a family name, it was just a name that came to us. We really liked it. I quite liked the idea for a girl. When we were pregnant with Jasper, I liked the idea of Constance, but Connie for short.
Yeah.
But then he was a boy, so he ended up being Jasper.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Razzle Jazzle.
Razzle Jazzle. Oh, Jasper. It's funny, isn't it, how names happen? Because Arthur, we'd always intended to call him Artie or Art, or we'd intended him to go by a nickname, but he never has. We called him Artie when he was really tiny.
Yeah.
But no, he's just Arthur. He is an Arthur. There is no shortening his name. Whereas Jasper...
Oh, he collects names. He
collects nicknames. He's been, we regularly call him Jazzy.
Yeah.
And Jaspy, he gets called Jaspy by Arthur. And then he came up with a load of nicknames for himself when he was probably about two or three. He wanted to be called Razzle Jazzle. So he's created this, almost like an imaginary friend, I think, Razzle Jazzle the Wizard.
Yeah.
But we had to call Jasper Razzle Jazzle for a long time.
Yeah.
And Rusty Dusty.
Rusty Dusty, that was one I came up with.
Do you remember that? Oh,
Rusty Dusty.
He was known as Rusty Dusty for absolutely ages, and he used to refer to himself as Rusty Dusty as well.
I don't know where that came from.
I can't remember where that came from either. But yeah, he just collects nicknames, does Jazzy. I'm not quite sure. It's just funny, isn't it, how kids... I don't know, something about their personalities, I guess, and the way the name reflects them. I don't know.
Right, what else we got?
Do you, this is a question for you, does Tom do any crafts apart from Lego?
Yeah, I guess.
You do your miniatures now?
I paint minis. I used to paint minis when I was a teenager doing Warhammer stuff. Then stopped playing Warhammer and didn't carry on doing the painting, which I really enjoyed. But then recently, actually during lockdown and since we started playing D&D, started painting minis again, like miniature fantasy figures. So yeah, that would be in terms of crafty hobbies that I've got.
You did knit for a little while.
I did. I got 3/4 of a jumper.
Yeah, I'm actually contemplating taking that jumper down to Cornwall and finishing the sleeves off.
Yeah, it might. when I started knitting it,
It'll fit Jasper now.
I knit it age 7 to 8, so that it would be Arthur. Arthur was like 6 when I started knitting it, but now Arthur is 8, and Jasper is 5.
Yeah, it might fit. It'll fit Jasper though if I get it finished sometime soon.
Yeah.
It's only the sleeves left.
But I knit myself a cowl and a hat, and I was like, well, I don't need to do anything more because I've got a cowl and a hat now. What else do I need?
Yeah. Okay, here you go. Here's one. What yarn or fibre best represents you, and what would you rather be?
Well, I think you're the expert at interpreting fibres.
Okay,
So
I'll just answer this one for me. But I feel like I am a merino nylon because it's like a workhorse yarn. So it's like, it's relatively simple, relatively plain, just kind of like your standard everyday yarn. But, you know, you add a bit of colour to it and it can be really pretty and it can look really nice and it can be quite exciting. But yeah, there you go. I feel like a merino nylon. But I kind of want to be like some fancy like cashmere silk blend that's all like beautiful and
you're a BFL silk.
I'm a BFL silk, a little bit rough around the edges but softened out by that
you're
silk
strong.
content.
You're strong and reliable, but also soft and beautiful.
Aw, he's sweet, isn't he?
Maybe I'll get a cup of tea before 8 o'clock if I keep saying things like that. No.
Not a chance.
I take it back.
Anyway, favourite place to visit in England or Scotland? Now this was for somebody who is hoping to come over to visit England and Scotland in the next, I've forgotten the whole comment, but in the next few years, and they were wondering about our favourite places to visit. So England, I would say that, I mean, London is the touristy place that everybody goes, and London is entrenched in, like, there's history in London.
Yeah.
But
I think London is maybe better for tourists.
But it's
than for
busy
living.
and it's chaotic, and if you want like history but without that chaos, then maybe Bath.
Yeah, or any of the old towns, like Canterbury.
Yeah, Canterbury.
Or just like on the National Trust properties to get a bit of a history.
Yeah, I mean yeah.
They're very specific to the properties, but you get kind of.
But in terms of like cities to visit, I'd say like Bath is amazing, and because I think London can be a little bit overrated because it's the big
it's so
tourist
busy.
destination, but it is busy and it is chaotic and it's expensive and
it'd be lovely if it was half the price and half the people.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's nice, it's good to visit, but you've got to be prepared for it being very busy and more expensive than it should be.
But quieter cities, like Canterbury. I've not been to
nice.
Canterbury.
That's nice.
But that's nice and again
you've got
very
Canterbury-
historic.
You've got Canterbury Cathedral and you've got loads of old buildings and stuff.
Bath, you've got kind of all the old Roman baths and
Yep.
there's a lot of history there as well. In Scotland, Glasgow is stunning. It surprised me. I've only been once, but as soon as you drive into the centre of Glasgow, the architecture is amazing. And it's got that same kind of London feel with like the buildings and the architecture and the history. But it's, it's really good. So if you're looking for that kind of thing. Countryside-wise, Cornwall.
Yeah.
It's right down south. It's quite a trek, quite a journey if you're visiting, but
Beautiful.
it's beautiful. It's got the best coastline, best beaches.
Yep.
We're biased because we both grew up there.
Yep.
But yeah. Edinburgh as well. Edinburgh.
Nice, yeah.
I was about to say in terms
not
of
in the
cities in
countryside.
Scotland, it's not in the countryside at all. But Edinburgh is another good city to visit if you're looking for kind of history and architecture and
Cairngorms.
countryside-wise. Yeah, Cairngorms. If you can't get all the way up into the Highlands in Scotland, then the Cairngorms are gorgeous.
Or the one over near Loch Lomond.
Ben Lomond.
Yeah, but there's a country.
Oh,
region.
yeah.
I forgot what it's called.
I forgot
the
what it's called too.
Lomans or something.
Yeah. So I don't think we did a very good job of explaining that or choosing favourite places in the UK, but If you're watching and you want to add any suggestions, then pop them down below in the comments, and then the person who asked the question can check the comments and see lots of wonderful places to visit in the UK, hopefully. Do you want to answer that one?
What does Tom teach, and how did he get interested in it? Okay. Law is the short answer. I work in a law department in a university. So I teach on the law degrees. And at Dundee we have law degrees in English law and Scots law. And I teach English law, that's what my training was in. And so the primary areas I teach are criminal law, and kind of legal theory and legal philosophy. So that's kind of what I teach, but my research is broader than that. So I don't really research in criminal law, but I do research primarily in legal theory and legal philosophy, and an area called cultural legal studies, which is where you take law and you put it next to something fun like a computer game or a comic book or a TV series, and you see what comes out, and then you write a paper on it and you call it knowledge, and people pay you to do it. It's really good. And so how I got interested in it, so I started off doing a physics degree, but didn't get on so well with that, and I knew some people on the law degree where I was studying, and thought that sounds interesting, because I used to watch Ally McBeal and stuff, and thought it was good at the time, which clearly it wasn't. And so then I did switch to a law degree, and then couldn't find a job. Was very clear on the fact I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I did a master's degree in criminology because I was watching a lot of CSI at the time. I thought
which
criminology.
is when we were first together, was when you were doing your master's degree.
Yes.
We met in between you finishing your undergraduate and starting your master's.
Yes. Yeah. So I did criminology with forensic psychology, and then off the back of that, couldn't find a job because there's no jobs in criminology. So I was able to get a PhD position down in Cornwall at the University of Exeter, had a campus down there. And I did that on comics, law and comics. I was doing law, legal theory and criminal responsibility and stuff. And thought, wouldn't it be fun to do this looking at a graphic novel, a comic book. So I studied the graphic novel Watchmen and questions of criminal responsibility. And that was really interesting. And then once you've done a PhD in law, there's only really one way you can go, which is into being a university researcher, university academic and lecturer.
Academic. There we go.
So I kind of fell into it because I didn't know what else to do, really.
You just didn't want to leave university, really.
Yeah, and that. And I like writing and coming up with ideas and being creative. And academia, the type of research that I do, very much fits that and enables me to be expressive and think up ridiculously complicated things that nobody will understand, and then I write them down, try to, and then people try and read them, and they say that's good because I don't understand it, so it must be good.
Right.
I'll stop now.
Let's move on to a more daft question, shall we?
Yes.
What type of Christmas elf would you be? I'm going to answer this one first. I would be the Christmas elf that's in charge of all the hot chocolate and the cookies. Mostly so that I can sneak hot chocolate and cookies for myself.
I would probably be a Christmas elf that makes all the nice wooden toys.
Although you've been the Christmas elf that's been in charge of wrapping presents today, because you've spent all morning wrapping Christmas presents.
Stack of presents just over there.
So I'm allocating you the wrapping elf.
No. Wooden toys elf.
What plans do we have for the new house in terms of decorating and garden and things like that? We decorated quite a lot when we moved in. We had a good week where we had the time to be able to come in while the house was empty and decorate. So we've redecorated the lounge, we've redecorated our bedroom and the boys' bedrooms. We could do with, at some point, just putting a lick of paint on the hallway.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It was in really good condition, so we don't need to do anything. Well, we don't need to do anything with the upstairs bathrooms. We need to do something with the downstairs toilet.
Yeah.
Because it's got carpet on the floor, brown carpet on the floor.
At least it's brown.
Yeah, so we need to do something with that at some point. Maybe this year we'll do it. I mean, it shouldn't be too big a job because all we want to do is just put some decent lino in and just repaint, maybe put some tiles in or something. Yeah. So it's not a big job. We don't really need to change the toilet and the sink. We just need to redecorate. The big things that we want to do are we want to convert the garage so that we can turn part of the garage or the whole garage. We're still working out plans of it, but we want to convert the garage so that we can turn it into kind of a spare room / office. So it'll be predominantly an office for me, but the sofa bed will go in there and it will be able to act as a spare room when people come to stay, because we don't have a spare room at the moment. We've got a 3-bed house and both the boys have their own rooms. So that's one of the major things.
Yeah.
And then
to convert the kitchen a bit, just to kind of knock through into, we've got like a bigger kitchen diner at the minute. We've got a small kitchen and a small dining room that they're next to each other.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're thinking of doing.
Yeah, the kitchen is tiny.
Knock that through into a bigger kitchen diner.
So yeah, we like the idea. We need to put a new kitchen in. The kitchen's fine, but it's
fine.
It's fine. It's functional. But we could do with a better kitchen in there at some point. So yeah, I think we'd quite like to see if we can turn that into a kitchen diner, give ourselves a bit more room back there, and then possibly the utility room will become my dye space.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's lots we want to do. Garden wise, Tom did quite a lot in the garden over the summer. You cut out
Made a border
and put a load of plants in.
Yep, put some raised beds in, which I'm going to plant up in the spring.
We got rid of there were 2 sheds in the garden. We got rid of one of them.
Yep.
And we repurposed the wood to make raised beds, which we need to actually plant stuff in this year.
In the spring, yeah.
We want to do a little bit in the front garden because at the moment our lawn is just open out onto the street, which is fine. But we want to put in like a tree or something that will give us a bit more. You've got a plan?
I've got a plan.
What are you putting in?
Tree and some rocks and some heather. I'm going to plant it up nicely with some heathers and some rocks and kind of low-lying stuff. And you want to put some stuff under the...
I want to put some stuff under the window.
Under the window. And then a nice tree. And some wildflowers and stuff under the tree. Make it look nice.
Just to, but again, those are, we'll...
Longer term.
Yeah, longer term, we'll leave it till the spring and summer. But we're quite fortunate that there's nothing that we urgently need to do because the house is in really good condition, which is brilliant. Right, last question, because we've been talking to you for absolutely ages. I mean, this is always one of the longest videos of Vlogmas, but we do like to ramble on. What superhero powers do you wish you had?
What do you think?
I'm going to go time travel. I'm sure we've answered a very similar questions in previous Q&A videos, and I think I've probably given a different answer every time. But I'm going to go time travel for a number of reasons. Partly because I always wish there were more hours in the day. So, like, being able to travel back in time. Like, I'd want very specific time travel powers. So I'd want to be able to, like, rewind time, but not necessarily rewind everything. So like, I could have more hours in the day. So I could be sitting and knitting, and I could think to myself, oh gosh, I wish I had a couple of extra hours now before I need to go to bed. And I could rewind time by a couple of hours, but like my knitting progress wouldn't rewind. So I could like designate the specific things that would rewind and wouldn't rewind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It would be an awesome power.
Yeah.
And also so I could like rewind and just like relive best days that I've had. I could go back and just have that day again.
Interesting. I was also going to say a time power, but I was just going to say a pause button.
Oh yeah, that's...
Just read a pause time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I want to do.
Yeah.
Basically, just to give myself more time.
Yeah.
But I'd quite like to be able to fast forward time sometimes as well, and just be like, oh, do you know what? I really want it to be this day now.
Yeah,
I'm just
skip
gonna skip a few days and jump forward.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, time travel, or magical time altering powers of some form.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Go with that.
Yeah. So we thought we'd finish off the video with, of course, Joke of the Day! Knock knock.
Who's there?
Figs.
Figs who?
Fix the doorbell already, I've been knocking for ages. Thank you very much for watching our Q&A video. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've had lots of fun. And I will see you all again for a normal Vlogmas again tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.